Good evening, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for August 31st, 2022, around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about this evening, including Invest Area 91L. What threats is it going to bring over the next several days, and will it become a hurricane? Let's go and jump straight into everything. Taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this evening as the sun is beginning to set. We notice that here is Invest Area 91L sitting out here in the central tropical Atlantic. This will be moving towards the northwest over the next several days and could become a tropical storm as soon as tomorrow or Saturday, as it is moving towards the northwest and towards the northern part of the Leeward Islands. If you take a look here at the zoomed out visible satellite imagery as the sun sets this evening, we notice that there's a general area of disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity, again, mainly centered around 16 north. And this whole cluster will be moving off towards the northwest over the next several days, but will comfortably remain away from the Leeward Islands at this particular point. So there is no real indication of any significant threats there. However, this is still yet to come over some obstacles that is to be expected over the next several days. If we look here at the H4 forecast, this is the 12Z run, about for 5 p.m. this evening. Now we notice that this evening on the H4 forecast, it does have pressures around 1,003 millibars. However, this is likely a lot stronger in reality than what, or this is a lot stronger on the model than what reality actually is. Pressures are probably around 1,006 to 1,007, and this will be moving towards the northwest over the next few days, but we notice that it's still dealing with the effects of some shear. We've got this tut right here still inducing that vertical shear across our system, and as long as that's the case, it's going to have a little bit of a tough time developing because it's also trying to push all of this dry air into our system. Now, based on the H4 forecast, we notice that it is actually trying to show this moisture wrapping around, and we can see that even in the visible satellite imagery that this moisture is trying to wrap around here, but it is having a very tough time doing so. And we notice where a lot of the dry air is, it's really just lurking right there. And we notice that there is some actual outflow boundaries in here, suggesting that the air is still racing away from the storm instead of having air converging and coming into the storm like this. So we do have a very vigorous mid-level circulation, but the low levels structure is still very disorganized this evening. This is expected to remain the case for a while. Now, here on the H-Wharf, this does become a hurricane really as soon as Friday afternoon. And I'm not 100% sure that's actually going to happen, but we still notice that the H-Wharf does bring this into major hurricane intensity sometime here on Saturday, and then begins to really stall this out across portions just to the north of the Leeward Island chain at this point. Now, there does not really seem to be any discernible really threat for the islands of the Turks and Caicos, Bahamas, or any part of Florida. If we look at why that's going to be the case, we'll look at the steering influences here over top of our system. We notice that this evening, this is the GFS forecast valid for Friday morning here. We notice that, again, we're generally going to be dealing with the influence of a trough breaking down any ridge to the north. And what this is going to do is allow our storm to generally move northwestward and will not really allow this to really make its way much further west. If we actually look at this here on the evolution, we also have Invest Area 93L now coming into the picture as well. And then we have this general troughing pattern that remains in the east. And this is likely to weaken that trough or weaken the ridge even further. And so now our storm's going to try to sneak its way something like this. And you can kind of see that evolution here. It just turns, it slows down and then turns out to sea and gets caught up in phases with another upper level low. And then actually there is a new tropical disturbance that forms down here in the deep tropics sometime by the 10th of September, which we'll have to keep an eye on that evolution, as that might also be something worth monitoring. But again, generally speaking, we will have to see exactly what happens. If we look at the European forecast, much of the similar solution here. We see the European, though, is a little bit weaker with our storm, and so it's definitely carried a little bit further towards the west here. But again, I don't really suspect much in the way of any issues here. This should probably become a hurricane. Most models have this become a hurricane, as it turns out to see. If we look at the latest track forecast here, Almost all of the guidance besides the UK Met model and the European agree with this turning out to sea rather quickly. This moves well to the north of Leeward Islands and then continues that on and out to sea. So most of the models are in agreement with that. And right now, the European and the UK Met models are the outliers in this case as they continue with a system that heads further west. And again, it should be noted here that a further west system would be a weaker solution because of unfavorable conditions out there. So it certainly needs to turn out like this before it does have a chance of becoming a hurricane. All right. So there's no real threat right now, no threat to Bermuda, no threat to the island chain at this point, and it seems like everything is going to be okay. This will probably just be a threat for marine interests down the road. All right. That being said, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll be talking to you guys again some more tomorrow.